Good morning. Live on YouTube, my Facebook group, and we're also live on Instagram. And welcome to the recording of the Be Brand podcast. I believe this is going to be episode 10 or 11. And I'm actually going on a trip this afternoon where I am going to be doing a keynote on the topic that we are going to talk today, that is going all in. And I was practicing my talk like I got teary-eyed because I really went back into my story, and I felt like this was absolutely an episode for the podcast, because this is the thing. People talk about building a personal brand. Everybody is talking about building a personal brand, and they are talking about building a personal brand in social media. And yes, building a brand in social media is amazing and it's going to make you money and all the things that we all know and that I preach all the time. But then when it really hit me is the way I think about building your personal brand is truly about the mark that you leave in the world. And I think I'm going to bring you back a little in a minute to my story. And what I know is that even when I thought that I was going all in, there was a moment that I wasn't. Okay, but I thought I was going all in. So I kind of want to bring you back a little bit. Before I do that, I am going to put this out there because I know people's attention span is really short. November 6th through the 11th, we are hosting a personal branding bootcamp, and this is happening inside private Facebook group. It's not happening on the regular Facebook group, and this is going to walk you through a strategy, mindset, client attraction, lead generation, all the things. So if you have been loving the podcast and all the content that I put out there, you love community and you want to show up authentically and you want to build a brand that actually you can make money with, this bootcamp is for you. I am going to have the links everywhere. Like if you're on Instagram, they are in my link in bio. They're on the show notes. But I wanted to put it out there before we keep going. So let's go back to going all in. Okay. So in order to do that, I have to bring you back to 2018 when I first started my business as you know it now. Now, back then, I was already building my business as a photographer, and I had niched down to actually baby photography at the time, and I was still bartending. Now, for those of you that don't know this story, I used to be a world champion flair bartender. Those are the bartenders that like flip the bottles and spit the fire, and I was competing. And what happened was, like, I really loved my job for the first 10 years of my career. But then, I got pregnant and my priorities changed. And that job that was all amazing and like it was fun, what happened is like it became just that. It became a job, right? So I'm building this business on the side and I'm going in and out, in and out. And it wasn't really working, right? So I'm like, and I felt like I was there for a couple of years. And I was like, is this ever going to happen? I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I didn't know what I was doing. So one day, my friend Heather, and she's going to become famous after I tell this story all the time, but my friend Heather calls me and invites me to this live event. And I remember at the time, I was like, why do we need to go to this live event? And she was telling me how like live events are so amazing. You get to meet so many people. You actually get to network, build your network, right? And I was like, okay, let's go. And also, I'm very adventurous. I never been to Nashville. And I was like, okay, fuck it. Let's go to Nashville. So we arrived to Nashville and we go to this event, and, we check in and like different speakers start talking. And, when you go to these events, most speakers are amazing. Okay. But what happens though is there is usually one speaker that has the message for you, the one that you need to hear, right? Like the one that pierces your soul. And this lady was that for me. So she gets on stage and she like I could never forget this. I could hear her heels going into the stage. She was wearing this like beautiful red dress. She started doing her talk and she shares about her being a former bartender. So she immediately got my attention, right? And she starts talking about mission, vision, ripple effect, making a difference, making more money than you ever thought of. And I remember thinking, like, the fuck is she talking about? Because at the time, I love my job. I was making amazing money. I don't know if you know the story. I think I already like told it on the first episode, so you can always go back there. But I was making great money. I used to work in the Las Vegas Strip, so for us, like $1,000 night was like the norm, right? So I was making great money. I loved it for many years. But this is the thing, not for 1 minute I ever thought that I was making a difference. I never saw myself as a person making a difference in the world. And I remember this woman talking about all these things. And I was like, oh my God, that is what I want to do. That, especially that. And in a split of a second, I saw myself on stage. I could feel the nerves of like being on stage. I could like feel my feet on it. I could feel the room. I could hear my voice. It was like crazy. Like literally, I had a vision, right? And just like that happened immediately, like I was back in my seat and I was back in the room. And my brain went to tell me, you are a bartender. You have an accent. Your English sucks, right? All these ideas. It even went to tell me, like, I remember vividly, like, you have been building this business on the side now for how long? And this shit ain't happening. And I felt so small. I felt so small. I almost felt embarrassed of like having even the thought, right? So I come back from that event and I promise myself I'm going to go all in. Consciously, I am going all in. And I'm thinking, like, okay, I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to go on social media. I'm going to go networking. I'm going to tell everybody about my business. Now, a few months go by and my business wasn't growing. And this is the whole idea of this podcast, right? Like, I looked around and I realized that my business wasn't growing. And I was like, why? What is really truly happening? And I started assessing everything that I was doing. And I remember thinking the reason why things weren't working is even though I was telling everybody I was a photographer, people still saw me as a bartender. If you would have Googled me at the time, videos of Flair and me bartending would have showed up on YouTube, everywhere online, right? Like you could have looked my name and that's what you would see. If you went to my social media, you could see that I took photos, but it was unclear, right? Like I was a photographer, I was an expert at what I was doing. So I realized at the time that my personal brand was that of a bartender, right? Like I wasn't really showing up in my full power with this new, truly identity from the inside. Okay. And I want to emphasize that because people will teach you, and I teach this, you guys. Like we talk about social media, going to speak, going to do all these things, but I wasn't truly stepping into the power of my personal brand, which is our uniqueness, right? So as I'm having all these thoughts, and I'm like, okay, what truly needs to happen? Thank you, love. What truly needs to happen for me to embody this? Because people will tell you, and sometimes I share this concept too, that your personal brand is what people think of you, what they know of you, right? The space you occupy in their mind. But this is the thing. Are you actually embodying that? I truly believe all of that, and that your personal brand is also who are you being. Your personal brand is the mark that you are trailing as you go. This is your purpose, because people get stuck on the product or the service that they offer today. This is the thing. When you embrace the power of your personal brand, you can do one product today, one service today, but tomorrow you can pivot. And it's always based on your purpose. It's always based on the difference that you want to make in the world. So, as I'm realizing this, what I really saw, and again, right, fast forward 5 years where I'm at today, I'm coaching women, I have a business, I'm a speaker, I have the podcast, all these things. When I look back and I look at the hundreds of women that I have coached so far, there is 4 areas that I know you need to jump all in order to really own this. And number one, it's actually before number one, actually, is really assessing where you're at and what do you truly want to be known for, right? Like, what is the difference that you want to make in the world, and go all in on that. Now that can pivot, right? That can change at different moments in your life. You can be focused on different things, but what do you want to be known for? And make an assessment. Google yourself, ask people, how do they see you? What do they know about you? And then really ask yourself, am I showing up as that person every single time? Am I showing up as that person in my work, in my personal relationships? Am I showing up as that person on the things that I put out there? So, not just the content, right? But are you hosting events? Are you volunteering? How are you showing up at your kids' school? When people ask you what you do, are you owning it? Or are you just saying, oh, I just X, Y, and Z? So, these are the 4 areas that I want you to kind of rate yourself, right? Because it's about retrospection. Like, I don't want this to be just about a strategy. This is about really leaning in and going all in these areas. So, number one is your expertise. So many of us deal with imposter syndrome. I do too. We all do, right? So, somebody told me this one time and it stuck with me, and I'm going to pass it along. And is, you're always in the middle. Always, always, always in the middle. What does that mean? There is always going to be somebody that knows more than you, and there is always going to be somebody that knows less than you, that is 2 steps behind. Now, there is always going to be somebody that knows more than you. It doesn't matter how many certifications you get, how many titles you have, how much you study, how better you get, how much you read. There is always going to be somebody that knows more than you. Always, right? The same happens with, there is always going to be somebody that is 2 steps behind. Why is this important? Is because you need to own the expertise from today in order for you to keep evolving. Now, this doesn't mean that you want to get stuck, but what it means is that you're going to evolve with time, but you need to lean in owning and going all in on your expertise right now. Because at the end of the day, you guys, people buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. And in order for you to make your mark in the world and to put your message out there, you need to be selling, right? You need to be selling whatever it is that you're doing. If you're a speaker, you need to be speaking. If you're a coach, you need to be coaching. If you do any kind of service, you cannot change lives if you are not out there doing the thing, right? Second one is your brand story. It took me so long to actually own the fact that a lot of my brilliance came from bartending. right? It came from the years I spent behind the bar, from reading people, from having the soft skills of being able to look at a person and understand and having emotional intelligence, right? So it took me so long for me to own that story. And this is the crazy thing. Once I did, people actually loved that. But I didn't think that I had a story. And a lot of you don't think that you have a story. But this is what the part of your story that is important. Why do you do what you do as opposed to doing something else? And I'm actually going to like bring you full circle towards the end, because I'm going to tell you a story of how everything have pivoted for me, from personal brand, from photography, regular photography, to personal branding photography, to then coaching, right? And why is my perspective so different when it comes to coaching, personal branding, and adding that portion of mindset and energetics and all of that. So your expertise, your brand story, really owning it and stepping on it. And why do you do what you do as opposed to doing something else? There is a reason. So rate yourself. How much are you going all in? Are you actually going all in? Because I remember coming back from that trip and doing all the things. And then I realized that I wasn't, right? I thought I was going all in. But once I actually sat down and rated myself, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not, right? So, number 3 is your opinions. Are you actually validating what you think about your industry, what you think about what you truly think, your thought leadership, right? Most of us, we are trying to be very vanilla. We don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to like go against the grain. Now, this is not about talking shit about other people, but this is about you owning your thought leadership. Me coming here and telling you this is owning my thought leadership, is what I have observed through my journey up until this point, where women actually hold themselves back and they play really, really small and they don't go all in, right? So your opinions are what separates you. So at the beginning, I told you you need to own your expertise, right? And one way of doing that is actually teaching on social media, teaching educational content, teaching workshops, really putting yourself out there as the expert, right? Teaching is like the universal way that you show your expertise. Now, this is the thing. Everyone and their mother, including myself and every coach, every person on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, is sharing educational content. What separates you from the educational content is your opinion, why you do it the way you do it. What do you bring to the table, right? That is different than how somebody else is doing it, that it's already going to align with the values of the person that you are talking to. And most women, they actually keep that like very private, because we were told, you are too loud, you're too sweet, you are too, I don't know, you're too shy, you're too introvert, you're too this, you're too that. And then we're wondering why nothing is happening and why you don't stand out online or in the real world, right? So third one is really owning your opinions. And fourth one is really going all in on your self-discovery. You, my friend, are the secret sauce. You are the only thing that is different in your business. There is a million personal branding coaches, a million personal branding photographers, a million realtors, a million insurance agents, a million, all whatever you want to call it. Okay. Now, when people tell me the market is so saturated, I'm going to tell you it's not, because there is only one of you. And this work, and when people talk about authenticity, which is such a bastardized word when it comes to the online world, it all comes back to your self-discovery, to you peeling the onion of who you are. What is this message that you bring into the world? What is this thing that you have to offer, right? So as I'm sitting here, these are the 4 things that I truly believe you need to rate yourself and ask, are you going all in on this? Are you truly embodying the work and the message that you want to bring into the world. And earlier I said, why going all in with your personal brand? And yes, your personal brand is what's going to make you money. It bridges the know, like, and trust factor. It will help you to truly be able to pivot anytime you want, right? Because you already have an audience. So building your personal brand has all of that when it comes to the business world. But also, this is the thing, the world needs you. The world needs new ideas. The world needs your message and your message and your message, because all together we make the collective. And I don't know if you notice, but the world is falling apart out there. Okay. And there is nothing we can do about that. We cannot go and fix that, but we can fix the message that we are giving every single day. Every single day, one post at a time, one client at a time, one talk at a time, we can make the world a better place. And I think that there is such this belief around the fact that every single one of us can make a difference. And I know that a lot of us know that we have a message. We just don't know what that is. And we are not going all in to discover it, right? I remember talking about this topic with the host of this event that I'm going to speak at this weekend. And one of the things that we talked about is, you don't go when you have a pool and when you have a vision, right? In my case was that vision. I came back from that event and I was fired up from listening to this speaker, and that vision really pulled me. But then there is so many more visions that are going to come. Your business, your vision, your life is not made just from that one vision that maybe you had when you started your business. Visions will keep coming. The question is, are you going to go all in? Are you going to pursue every single one of those visions? And going all in is not about going all in one day or 1 week. It's going all in every single time that you have the opportunity. I remember in 2020, when the world shut down and women needed guidance, I took the opportunity, right? I wasn't very sure. I was also not in a place where I was super owning my expertise, but I took it. And I knew that there were women to step behind me, right? And I remember in 2021, it was the first time I went to this event that I'm heading this weekend. And I invested in myself. I invested in a program that was $20,000. And like, literally, I called my husband. I was like, I want to do this program. It's $20,000. He was like, okay, if you think this is for you. And I went all in. And I paid cash, actually. Well, not cash. I paid in full because that was such a push for me. And I went all in. And this was a PR program, right? We wrote a book, and then I became a best-selling author. Was I ready? No. Did I think that I was ready at the time? No. I went all in. I leaned into what it felt absolutely hard and difficult and out of reach, right? In 2022, it was the first time that I actually got asked to speak on stage. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to show my pants, right? And literally, I said yes immediately, because I knew if I didn't, I was going to back out. And I knew that was the vision. The vision was becoming true, right? From my first vision. So you get to go all in every single day. You don't get to go all in for 5 minutes and you're like, oh, that didn't work. You get to go all in every single day, because that is how you spread the word. That's how you spread the message. And yes, that is how you build a business. And that's how you build an audience. And that is how you build that ecosystem that they wants to buy from you. But when they are buying from you, what happens is you're changing the world one person at a time through your message. So I wanted to record this because I'm heading to this event this weekend, and this is very raw and real and so alive in me right now. And I know that my personality is about jumping. I go all in all the time and I make the decision and I go all in, and things are not necessarily easy ever, even though people sometimes is like, but they look so easy for you. They're not. They're not for anybody. Building a business and building a personal brand, there is a lot of fear. There is a lot of doubt. There is a lot of like, oh my God, what people are going to think of me. There is a lot of like, is this going to even resonate with people? Like right now, before I even sat down here, I was like, is this even going to resonate with people? But this is the thing. You will never resonate with anybody if you don't get started. You won't ever resonate with everybody if you don't practice. You won't ever sell the product if people don't know you. You will never make that difference if people don't know what you're all about. So when I said, why go all in with your personal brand? Yes, we all want to make money, but also that is how you truly change the world. So I hope that this episode really inspire you. Whatever going all in means to you, go all in. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Let's close this one too.